Hey all, this is Redatosker. The new mech for Helldivers 2 has just been released. It's the EXO-49 Emancipator, and in this video I'm going to talk about all the changes I think it should have. Number 1, it should have a way to zoom in. One of the benefits of using an autocannon is its ability to accurately shoot targets from long ranges. When you're using the autocannon support weapon, you can go into first-person mode to look through the scope. I believe the mech should have a similar feature. You should be able to go into first-person mode to more accurately shoot at distant targets. Or if not a first-person mode specifically, it should at least let you zoom in and look at the reticle more closely. Another change I think it should implement is to allow us to shoot downward more closely to the mech's feet. This is also something that they need to change for the Patriot. The terrain on these maps is not perfectly straight, and often the enemies will be slightly below you and you'll be unable to hit them because of your inability to look down. This is also an issue when trying to close bug holes and you have to wiggle around to find the right sweet spot of where to stand to hit the hole. It's strange because the other mech, the EXO-45 Patriot, can look down with the Gatling gun. In a patch they removed the rocket pod's ability to shoot downward, but the Gatling gun could and still can look down and shoot at its feet. The autocannons on the Emancipator are attached to it in the same way as the Gatling gun, so there's no reason for them not to have a broader range of movement. Now I still think that the rocket pods on the Patriot should be able to shoot downwards, even if that means that the enemy's below you or nearby. But if they want to restrict its range of movements for the sake of realism, well fine, but that's not an excuse for the Emancipator. It should have the same range of movement as the Gatling does for the Patriot. And now that I've said that, I'm actually stricken with a great fear that the developers will hear me say that and think to themselves, you know, he's right, Redditosker's totally right, the Gatling gun should not be able to move as much as it does. Now another issue with the mech is that it takes a really long time to kill a Bile Titan specifically. It seems to be working fine with chargers. You can kill them in, 10 headshots. And since you can fire both guns at the same time, that is the equivalent of 5 shots. They go down quickly, and that's only a 15th of your total ammo. But for the Bile Titan, the situation is much worse than that. According to this YouTuber Aravin, whose video I will link in the description, it takes 25 rounds to the head to be able to kill a Bile Titan. Now on paper that doesn't sound so bad. 25 shots is a sixth of your ammo. You could potentially kill 6 Bile Titans or, 15 or more chargers with that amount of ammunition. And that's pretty good for one stratagem. Even on release before its nerfs, the Patriot could only kill 14 chargers and 7 Bile Titans, which is fairly equivalent. There's a couple of problems though. You're not going to get 25 headshots on a Bile Titan in a row while you're moving, while there's all this stuff happening, while you're being surrounded by enemies. You're not going to get the optimal amount of Bile Titan kills with the ammo you have available. I think most people using the mech will get 2 Bile Titan kills per mech use, with 3 being a best case scenario. More importantly, unlike the Patriot on release, the Emancipator is using its main ammo supply to deal with everything. It uses it to kill normal enemies, it uses it to kill chargers, it uses it to kill Bile Titans, Devastators, what have you. The Patriot had the option to reserve its rockets for big threats like the chargers and the Bile Titans, and still had a whole other ammo pool to deal with normal enemy types. So it's not equivalent at all. Furthermore, it's more dangerous and takes longer to kill large enemies with the Emancipator mech, since even if you did get 25 shots to the head of the Bile Titan, that's going to take an extended period of time. Given these costs, I think 150 total rounds is too few. Maybe doubling it to 300 would be excessive, but at the very least I think that 200 to 250 is about right. Now finally, you can't take both mechs at once, which really crushes my dream of specializing into mech pilot exclusively. By looking up online, there seems to be a way of actually taking both mechs at once, but from what I can tell, that's a glitch. I get the feeling that restricting you to one kind of mech per match is intended. And that's fine for now when they're giving us the free mech stratagem. But seeing as it's their intention to restrict us to one kind of mech, there's only 2 mech uses per match, and there's a 10-minute cooldown between mech summons, I think it would be a good idea to increase the number of mechs you can bring to a match by 1. If you're not going to let me bring 2 different kinds of mechs, then I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for a 3rd mech in a mission. And that ties into my final idea. There should be a ship module exclusively for mech hangars. The ability to summon a third mech per match could be one of the upgrades. The ability to zoom in into first-person mode could be another upgrade for the ship module, if you didn't want to give it to people for free. And increasing the total number of rounds available to your mech is also something that they could look into. And that is it for the Emancipator. It doesn't suck, really. It just has a few things that make it hard for people to get the most out of its tools. If it was given what I proposed, the ability to zoom in, a little bit more ammo, and the ability to look down, I think it would be my favorite stratagem. Now let's take the opportunity to go back and look at the Patriot again, since I probably won't be making another Helldivers video for a while. In my last video I talked about the problem with the Patriot, the big one being that the rockets don't shoot where you're aiming. That video did very well, and most people were happy that attention was being drawn to this issue. But there were also people that think that there's nothing wrong with the mech, and gave pretty much 3 different kinds of reasons as to why they think that. So I'd like to go over those reasons and explain why I don't agree. Now the first thing people said is, it's fine, just get used to it. Since I know that it's hitting to the left of where I'm pointing, I should just point more to the right, and memorize and intuit the trajectory of the rocket. Now personally, I don't think that is very logical. Imagine if we were talking about the reticle on a gun. Imagine that you're aiming down sights, and you notice that the bullets hit to the left of where you're pointing. And then you point this out to somebody, and they tell you, well, since you know that it's shooting to the left of where you're pointing, all you have to do is point more to the right. And my thoughts on that are that, no, you shouldn't point more to the right. Instead, the devs should admit that there's a problem and implement some way for me to know where the rockets are heading, how they're going to land. Be that by putting it back the way it was, or by adding a second reticle that represents the rockets. However they want to fix it, I think it's important that the targeting device on the screen accurately reflect where your rounds are going to go. Now another argument that people proposed was that the rockets are sighted for 50 meters. So 50 meters out, the rocket is accurate. And before that point, it's inaccurate and you have to point it to the right. Now the problem I have with this argument is that I don't just have to shoot things at 50 meters. And before the patch that fixed the self-destruct bug on the mech, the rockets weren't just accurate at 50 meters, they were accurate at 40 meters, and 30 meters, and 50 meters, and 20 meters, and 10 meters, and 5 meters, and 3 meters. They were accurate regardless of where you shot from. Now if they wanted to change from where the rocket spawns to not only fix the bug, but to have it fire in a more realistic way, then fine, I am not an enemy of realism. But you can't just say, oh well, it's sighted for 50 meters, so now just adjust to that. No, you have to provide me with an accurate representation of where the rocket's going to be. Now the final argument that people sent me in the comments was that you can just switch the viewing side of the mech, and if you're looking from the left-hand side, then the rockets follow a more natural looking trajectory and do in fact hit their targets better. And they're right, that's a neat workaround. I pinned a comment on my video showcasing how to do that. But here's the thing, it's actually an extremely inconvenient workaround, and I have to assume that most people that suggested it haven't tried it, because the issues with it become immediately apparent. So let me explain how it works. Normally in Helldivers, when you're aiming, you can switch from which side of the character you're looking through. You can switch the camera side from left or right. The right is the default, and then you can switch the side to the left. Now here's the issue. On the mech, you're not technically aiming just for being inside the mech. And so if you push the button that would switch sides, it won't do anything. In order to switch sides, you need to hold down the button that would have been your aim button, and then push the switch sides button. And then the moment that you let go of the aim button, it will switch back to its default side, the right side. By default on the mouse and keyboard, the aim button is the right mouse button. Which means for you to be counted as aiming inside the mech, you need to hold down the right mouse stick. The problem is, that's also the right hand weapon button. So in order to switch sides, you need to continuously fire Gatling rounds, and then switch sides, and then shoot your rockets while you're still firing the Gatling, and then when you let go of the Gatling, it will switch back to the default side. On the controller, it's even worse because the default aiming button is L2, and that's the same button that is used to fire the rockets. So you'd be wasting rockets every time you want to look from the left side. So you can see that the game never expected you to want to switch sides on the mech. You have the option, but the default controls don't make it easy or practical. But you can work around it. There's a workaround to be able to do the workaround. You can go to your bindings and change how the aiming works. Normally you aim when you hold down the aim button, and you stop aiming when you let go of the aim button. But you can change it from hold down to a toggle. So you press the aim button, and then it will continue to aim until you press the aim button again, and then it will stop aiming. So in this way, you can trick the game into thinking that you're aiming while you're inside the mech without having the button pressed down. So assuming you're using a mouse and keyboard, you press the aim button to stay in an aimed state, go inside the mech, and then press the switch sides button. Then you fire the rockets with the left mouse button, and whenever you want to fire with the Gatling gun, you press the left mouse button to shoot, and that will also tell the game that you're not aiming anymore, which will cause it to go back to the right-handed Gatling gun perspective. The next time that you want to go back to the rocket launcher, you need to tap the right mouse button, which is the aim button, and that will like spin up the Gatling gun, but it won't shoot because you didn't hold it down for long enough. And then again, press the switch sides button and fire the rockets again. And that will work, but that also introduces problems when you're not inside the mech. I suspect that most people like hold to aim. They don't want to aim by pressing a toggle. So that means getting used to this extremely inconvenient way of aiming at all times, or rebinding your keys every time you get out of a mech. It's so janky that it's obviously not intentional. You can't say, oh, there's no problem because now the rockets are firing from the left-hand side. But to look from the left-hand side with the mech is such a process. And in fact, the process is much worse if you're using a controller. Because on the controller, if you tap the aim button while inside the mech to switch sides, that's still going to fire a rocket. So what you would have to do is take L2 to stop being the aim button, put some other button to be the aim button. So you'd have to be clicking R3 to go into the aim mode, then fire the rockets with L2, and that means that when you get out of the mech, R3 or whatever button you tied to aim is going to be stuck as your aim mode until you rebind it. Which is just ludicrous. It's just a ridiculous workaround. This workaround is knockout evidence that there is a problem, and that the developers are going to have to be the ones to fix it. And that's the end of this video. As always, thank you very much for watching.